Mark 15, no, no, Mark 16 from 15 going down. This is what it says. He said to them, "Go into all the world and preach the good news to all creation. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. And these signs will accompany those who believe in my name. They will drive out demons. They will speak in new tongues. They will pick up snakes with their hands, and when they drink deadly poison, it will not hurt them at all. They will place their hands on sick people, and they will get well." Wow. Good vibes, creature of God. I've started by reading the word from that Good Vibes book of wisdom. Yeah, this one. Because we here, my friend, are constantly guided and increasing our wisdom from the words in this book. Now, if it's your first time here, I have some fruit with me here. You might have never seen this one. I don't know where you come from, but it's called an avocado. It's just the medium sized one. Here I have a pineapple with me and some bunnies. And all this, my friends, all these things will be involved in spreading love to the whole world. Peace, honesty, forgiveness, and repentance, which are the virtues that guide us. Interesting. So, these virtues, we spread them to the whole world by going through interesting videos from different athletes like yourselves with different messages. And all these videos, my friends, are for the sake of spreading good vibes. And with your help, we can spread them to the whole world. Now, interesting. So, before we dive in, we also always ask for forgiveness from our Maker, the Supreme Creator, who gives us breath and has enabled us to be joined here together. So, my friend, before we dive in, let's talk with this Maker. Dear Lord Father, thank you for everything. Thank you for life and this chance, Father, to be alive. Thank you, dear Lord Father, for this privilege you've given me to be the host of today's show with your child here, Father. Thank you for that love. Dear Lord, this interesting viewer that have joined us, may they receive their portion of blessings, Father, through the videos. May they see your goodness in their lives, Father, and may they be forgiven all their sins by the sacrifice of your Son, Jesus Christ. Dear Lord, and as you forgive them also, do not forget us. Include us in the forgiveness, Father, and also bless us. In your holy name, Jesus Christ, we pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Let's dive in, child of God.
Adik gue pesetan ini ya? Adik gue pesetan sih. Hah? Kekunci? Ya udah. Iya, iya. Bentar. Dek. Dek, lu di mana, Dek? Dek. 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 Ada bukan? Merinding.
What's going on here? Some good vibes guys digging up something from the ground. What could this be? Looks like a piece of metal or stone. Oh, let's check it out and see what this is. What do you think this could be, interesting child of God? Look at the shape of this thing. It looks quite specific, not like an ordinary rock.
You want to know what's crazy? The higher up we go, like when we fly in a plane, the colder it gets. Yet we're closer to the supposed heat source of the Earth, which is the sun. Now, we know that the closer you get to a heat source, the warmer it is. If there's a heat lamp 10 feet away from me and I start getting closer to it, the warmer it will get. Yet at an altitude of about 35,000 feet, it's about minus 40 outside. Much colder than the surface of the Earth. And the same goes for the bottom of the oceans. Earth's core is a supposed 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet the further we go down, closer to the heat source, the colder it gets. Now, I know all the little brainwashed agents of the Matrix are going to come in here and say, bro, go back to school. You missed science class. Go on Google and tell me that heat is distributed in different ways and all that stuff. But, you know, I can see things very clearly. My mind is not blind, and I understand that that is complete garbage. And everything they tell you is completely garbage. You believe in pseudoscience. I believe in real science. I really hope this one makes you think. Peace and love.
Here we continue with the digging. Good babe, so this is what you have just seen previously. What is this that is being dug up? Looks like an upside down pot, cooking pot, or something like that. But let's see what this guy will find out. Yo, can you guess what this could be? Myself, I could guess is a pot. You see, a clay molded pot. This is how they look like if you don't know.
¡Hey! Ya, vente, vente. Tranquilo, agarra el bote, agárralo, tranquilo, agárralo. Agárralo, agárralo, no te subas, agárralo. Tranquilo, agárralo. Agárralo, agárralo, vete para la orilla. Tranquilo, tranquilo. Ya voy. Tranquilo, ya voy. Tranquilo, ya voy. Tranquilo. Tranquilo, tranquilo. Tranquilo, tranquilo. Tranquilo, 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 ya está. Vamos a la orilla, tranquilo. Agárrate de la cuerdita. Agárrate de mi cuerdita. 9 numbers in the universe. 9 numbers. 10 is actually 1 plus 0, that's 1. Zeros are placeholders. That's a man-made creation. Creator's language is math. There's only 9 numbers in the universe, 1 through 9. The numbers have a resonance, a frequency, a deep sacred geometry. And that this 3, 6s, and 9s is special, very special. Who said that? How about last century's greatest genius? Not Einstein, Nikola Tesla. Tesla taught his students John Keeley and Royal Raymond Rife and others. If humanity only knew the powers of the 3, 6s, and 9s, it would be a completely different universe. Not just world, universe, said Tesla. The alphanumerics, alphabet numbers, and alphanumerics of the English language, 1 through 26. But we talked about earlier, there's only 9 numbers, so you've got to use the Pythagorean mystery school math method of reducing the double digits into the single digit integers. So you take 1 through 9, 10 is 1 plus 0, that's 1, 11, 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 through 9, 1 through 9, 1 through 8. Then he took the words faith, trust, and God. Oh wow, isn't that interesting, he noted. They're all 8s, the infinity sign, God's number. 9 is completion. Now you might say, oh, well, that's nothing fancy. There's nothing, it's just interesting, but it doesn't prove anything. Here you go. In the Bible, the Creator never adds or subtracts, always multiplies. So you take the multiples of 8s. Now imagine you were God for a minute. Just use your imagination. Rockefeller, Rothschild, cartel. That they deceived the wealthiest men of all the nations and practiced sorcery. The root word of sorcery is pharmacopoeia. Pharmaceuticals is the root word of sorcery. And they cast magic spells to do it. It says that's exactly what the hypnosis machines called the television are. Casting magic spells, indoctrinating people into the cult, into the deceptions. Thank you to the Rockefeller cartel. Operating on behalf of the royalty of Europe and the banksters of Europe that are running Carnegie and Rockefeller institutes and foundations. The fundamental mathematics of this starts with the whole note in music, reflecting the whole cosmic system. Now imagine you were God for a minute. Just use your imagination. And you were all that was. Boring. You'd be bored. Moreover, think about this for a second. If you were all that was, if you expanded yourself as, let's say you were God, in all directions to infinity, in all directions, massive outward growth and beyond, until there was nothing else but you, there would be nothing else but you. That means everything and nothing is the same. Same. It's all in that one symbol. That's what that symbol represents. Now, the shortest distance between 2 points, the Creator and you, is a straight line. So you divide that. Now you've got the rudimentary 8, which is the infinity sign on its side. You see 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 degrees. It's all Masonic. It's all architecture. It's all sacred geometry. It's all the buried mathematics. Now flip this up. Look, you flip this one up here, flip this one down here. Now you got your x. That's how you came up with your x's, which are actually also alphanumerically the 6's, which I shared with you. Is a symbol. Like you see how divide the 8 in half, you got your 3. But you also have this 6 here, which you cut off a little piece here, you got your 6, which represents the spiraling down from heaven to manifest into earth. And 9's the opposite, completion, going back up, rejoining Creator in the wholeness of heaven. That's the sacred understanding underlying our most fundamental mathematics.
I really think this species is a foolish, failed species that has organized itself poorly. And I think this culture in particular leads the way. I think we have put property ahead of people. We have put competition ahead of cooperation.
To free yourself to be more whole, the specific piece of music is the first 3 minutes of Beethoven's Symphony No. 7, Movement 2. Play that while you're in a peaceful state of repose. Let it wash through you. Those chords are exactly, precisely what will tap into the idea of letting go of the past, letting go of sorrow, letting go of grief, letting go of regrets, and forgiving yourself and moving toward the vibration that will attract to you whatever information is germane to allow you to be in the healthy state that is your birthright.
By raising our frequencies, we're creating kind of a leading edge of a wave.
And by raising our frequencies, it's about not being in your ego, it's following your passion.
Letting go of fear. All the things that lower our frequencies.
So fear equals negative, bad frequency.
Well, I wouldn't say, no, this is not a judgment call.
Okay, right.
It's negative in the sense that it's disconnective, segregative. And when things are segregative, you don't have as much to draw on. So when you work with positive energy, it's more integrative, and therefore you're bringing things together in an exponentially expanding sort of way, and you have more to call on, and it's more effortless.
They've done studies where they tried to get 7,000 people to meditate on lowering the crime rate in Seattle.
Right.
And it went down like dramatically for 30 days.
Exactly.
And that
Sexual energy can be raised to activate 100% of our brains. Fire represents our Kundalini energy at the base of the spine, which then ignites up the spine and illuminates the brain, opening up new neural pathways and activating 100% of the dormant brain cells. Here's the Olympic torch, here's the spinal column and the sacred river, the Jordan River. It's all symbolism for our spines. Queen's ceremony also represented this Kundalini process of activating the pineal gland. Standing on the red carpet, which is the root chakra, the red chakra, which activates the 3 strands, which represents the Ida, the Pingala nerves, and the spine. The light appears up the spine, which then goes to the tree, which represents the brain, illuminating the brain. And this is where we get the word enlightenment, light in the mind. This process then gives you the armor of God in the Bible, which is gaining a strong electromagnetic field, protecting you from the influence of negative energy.
The idea is, you live from moment to moment. So in doing that, this moment decides the next step. You shouldn't be 5 steps ahead, only the very next one. And if you can keep to that, you're always all right. See, but people are thinking too far ahead and sidelines and all that. Do you know what I mean? Think only what's right there. Do only what's right under your nose to do, huh? It's such a simple thing that people can't do it,
Masons are like homosexuals. They can't reproduce themselves naturally. They can only, they can only recruit. Think of that. That's the way with every cult. If you know someone who's a Mason, or if you yourself are a Mason, realize that when you kneel at the altar of Masonry as an entered apprentice, and you take that oath, you are adopted into the family of Lucifer at that moment. Now, you don't probably know that. I did. But most people don't even know that. And as a result, if you're a Christian, and mind you, there are pastors that are doing this, there are deacons that are doing this, there are countless Christian lay people that are doing this. You cannot serve 2 masters. And if you understood the profound relationship between witchcraft and Freemasonry, you would know what that cord, that cable toe meant, because they've got a rope around their neck. And what that means in witchcraft and the occult is that is a symbol of the umbilical cord of the mother goddess, the Queen of Heaven, linking her to her hidden child. So this guy has just been born again by the Queen of Hell, the consort of Lucifer. Every Mason has this happen to them. And they don't understand the dynamics, probably 99 out of 100, but they still go through it.
Islamic religion is a very interesting combination of moon worship and Saturn worship and Venus worship. Venus is very big in the Islamic religion. You look up the word sin or Allah, it will tell you that Allah in Islam is actually the moon god Sin, S-I-N. And you'll see moon god virtually everywhere in the Middle East. And then we get to this article points out that the original Yahweh was only another form of this primitive lunar deity of Arabia. So Yahweh of the Hebrew religion was actually Sin, Ai. And this is why, even in Israel today, they do not spell synagogue S-Y-N. In Israel, they spell it S-I-N, because synagogue was the house of worship of the god Sin. Synagogue.
It's all a club. Freemasons in plain view.
Tonight, Gotham's relying on one man to save us all. Tonight, Gotham's relying on one man to save us all.
The biggest problem that all of this comes down to is the refusal of most people to believe that people in power wish them harm, actively want to harm them. That is the hardest thing for most people to accept. And there are a lot of people who just won't do that, even if they're quite aware that things aren't right and you can talk to them about this and that and they're open to it. But once you reach the point that the people in control are actively trying to harm you, that's too much for them. And I think we have to, that's not something you can just tell somebody. You have to wait for them to actually see it for themselves. This is the biggest problem we're up against.
China's manufacturing is way more insane than people realize. China's #1 in trade, #1 in steel, #1 in shipbuilding, and #1 in high-speed rail. Also, they're leading in robotics, and they have fully automated factories. They're now #1 on car exports, which was not the case 5 years ago. If you go to developing countries, you will see a shocking number of Chinese cars on the road. A lot of people assume China just makes cheap stuff, but that is not the case. I mean, look at their drone shows. Pretty much all drones are made in China, too. They have the vast majority of rare earth metals, and they're the leading producer of 33 elements. China leads in nuclear power, and they're planning 150 new reactors in the next 15 years. Then there's semiconductors, batteries, and solar. And surprisingly, only 16% of China's exports go to the United States. China's basically the world's factory.
So this man's walking around and he sees a part of a liquefied, now solidified, melted metal action from this car. Many people are already going to be thinking that would be a pretty hot fire, which it would be. So there must be a forest right nearby that's burnt. Oh, not really. Now, in this book, Where Did the Towers Go? There was a parking lot, and it was, they called the Toasted Car Park, because almost every single car in this parking lot got toasted. And it was near the towers, makes you wonder. But the strange thing is that you'd have images like this, where the outside of the car is toasted, the paint is melted off, but inside plastic and vinyl still is intact. Same thing with this, toasted exterior, but unburnt upholstery, unburnt seatbelt, plastic molding. And it's all about the strangeness of what happened to some of these cars on 9/11. Makes you wonder.
I'm going to tell you what to do when you get to the point where you can't go any farther, you can't get your breath. There's two ways to neutralize this lack of oxygen in our atmosphere. We want to get rid of the radiation. This, of course, is my own interpretation. Remember, what I'm telling you is my own findings, my own interpretation, my own experience. Soda and salt will neutralize any type of radiation, usually. Your X-ray, any of it. Now, the portion that you use a bath. You know, in the olden times, they used to get in the bath for almost everything, and they weren't wrong, believe me. And I think we're going back to that. So you take a tub of hot water, and I mean a tub full, all it will hold. Water as hot as you can stand it comfortably. And stay in that water until it cools down to body temperature. Now, the heat brings all that to the surface. And when it cools, osmotic pressure brings it out into the cooler side. We're taking a therapeutic bath. Now, when we get this low-grade radiation,
Nope, this is not just a flower, but one we will all need to eat by 2025 or we will not make it. People were shocked after several Asian doctors found a life-altering miracle flower in Hawaii that was hidden from us for years, and when given to patients were not only able to fight life-ending diseases, but it increased their lifespan by several decades. One patient ate this flower every day, and they noticed it not only made them physically younger, but eerie documents showed it rewind the internal biological clock, making it possible to extend their life indefinitely. The National Library of Medicine even shockingly labels it as a cure-all, as it has the ability to even aid a cure for Alzheimer's disease, help aid diabetes, liver disease, heart problems, and many more. But the benefits of drinking or eating the hibiscus flower on a regular basis are definitely widely documented, but they must be paired with diet, exercise, and medication.
Mass injecting of more than half the world's population with that drug is the worst thing that has ever happened in the history of our species, and it has happened now. And I know that's very, very difficult for a lot of people to accept, particularly people who've had it, but we are now living in the aftermath of that, and the repercussions are going to go on, I'm afraid, for a very long time. It's not like, oh, lots of people died and now they've finished dying, and obviously we want justice. People will keep dying, keep being extremely ill, probably be infertile, affected in all kinds of different ways for years and years, I'm afraid. And people have to kind of accept that that thing took place, and anybody who was involved at any kind of high level with making that happen is not your friend.
I am dealing with the harsh reality that a heightened level of one's consciousness often leads to increased levels of isolation. And it's not that the emotionally intelligent or those who we would deem to be spiritually aware desire aloneness, because most of us don't. It's just the unfortunate result of an unwillingness to regress to a lower state or a lessened moral behavior for the sake of fellowship. In other words, I'm not about to act a fool, put up with abuse, endure what I don't enjoy, or do something out of character just to say I'm not alone. With a greater understanding of one's individual value comes a lesser tolerance for being devalued, unappreciated, undervalued, or disrespected. Those who improve themselves remove themselves from any environment that doesn't appreciate their presence. Because it takes so much work to get to a place of esteem and confidence to whereas you see yourself as valuable. So when you sense any regression around you, you want no part of that. It's the simplicity of the realization that the more I love God, the more I love myself. The more I love myself, the more I love others. But if I devalue myself, then my treatment toward others will become questionable. So I have to guard how I value myself. When your thinking elevates to that level, you then realize that the reciprocation for poor treatment is not poor treatment. The reciprocation for poor treatment is absence. Imbalance leads to collapse, and that which is uneven can never be equal. So why give ample energy to someone who's only offering minimal effort to you? Proximity, protection, and emotional boundaries are just a part of being relationally intelligent. You're doing it for your own betterment so that you can not only love you, but you can efficiently.
Would you believe me if I told you that this is our known world and this is all of the land beyond Antarctica? And would you believe me if I told you that this is actually a map of the moon? And the moon is some sort of reflection being reflected off of our firmament, and it somehow shows the entire known world and then some. So the moon is literally a map of our known world, and it proves that there is more land beyond Antarctica. Vibes of Cosmos on YouTube accurately shows this, because he literally shows you all of the known world being mapped onto the moon and then land beyond Antarctica. He accurately maps cities, rivers, and even flight routes and the hours of the day on the moon. How does he do it? I'm not so sure, but it makes a lot of sense to me. So, have you heard of the black hole sun? Well, apparently there's a black hole sun in the center of the North Pole from which all light and life projects out of. So the light coming from the sun and the light coming from the moon is actually a projection being reflected off of our crystalline firmament and then concentrating in the ionosphere. And did you know that this is even depicted on the Prague astronomical clock? They have a clock in Prague that shows you the known world and more. It's an astrological clock. And what about the dark side of the moon? Maybe they're telling us something right in front of our faces, but this video was for entertainment purposes only.
I'm the third world. No, you are. The third world, Jesus Christ. I've been around 7,000 years. And we've proven that we were civilized 7,000 years ago. Are we so underdeveloped? That's not civilization. Civilization is how do you contact the other people? Do you know how to love? Do you know how to care? This is civilization. If you go to a very poor man here and he has nothing to give you, he'll go and borrow from his neighbors a loaf of bread and he'll offer it to you. In Europe, you may faint and drop dead in the street and people will just walk away from you and they don't give a shit. So we have to know what the word civilization means. And then we could say first world, third world, then. If you're still a savage.
Oh, look at this. I saw a man laid out on the steps of the subway who looked honestly dead. People are just passing. They don't bother to get him. Ah, man, I would even just pass him some water. You see? Some are even ready to pounce on him, and anyone is doing nothing.
You're living on frequencies. Now, when you think of something, what you've done is you've flipped your brain onto a higher frequency. The very fact you can see it is all the proof you need to know you could get it. What you have to do is raise your level of consciousness to that frequency, and then you will attract whatever's on that frequency, all the good you need to manifest the idea. Any idea that's held in the mind, that's emphasized, that's either feared or revered, so it could be bad or good, will begin at once to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate form available. It starts to move into form.